Welcome to the March 9th meeting of the Urbana Human Relations Commission. We have the roll call, please.
Francis Rittenberg Baker.
Here.
Kevin Bauer Sox Johnson.
Here.
Carol Bradford.
Here.
Stacy Burnett.
Here.
Samuel Bindum.
Here.
Daniel Larson. Lisa Mosley. Peter Resnick. Aisha Lam Sobe.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce, I believe we have a quorum, our new commissioners, yay. Carol Bradford, who's returning to serve here, and Stacy Burnett. Carol, would you like to say a few words? Yes. Oh, would you prefer? Yes, I'm sorry.
I'd like to introduce them if you... Members of the Commission and the public, it is a pleasure to inform you that with the approval of the City Council, Mayor Pressing has appointed Ms. Carol Bradford and Ms. Stacy Burnett to service on the Human Relations Commission. Ms. Carol Bradford is a clinical director at Prairie Center Health Systems and a returning commissioner, having previously served on the Human Relations Commission. Ms. Bradford has been a resident of the City of Urbana for the past 25 years. She is a licensed clinical social worker and holds a Master of Social Work from the University of Illinois. Committed to making a difference across the continuum of social work, Ms. Bradford has positively impacted the lives of men incarcerated at the Danville Correctional Center by conducting mental health evaluations, preparing treatment plans, and conducting suicide assessments of men at risk. She's also impacted the lives of the next generation of social workers through her teaching work as a clinical assistant professor at the University of Illinois. And she has impacted the lives of family members in need of support through leadership as a program director for Lutheran Social Services of Illinois. Ms. Stacy Burnett is a purchasing material control assistant at Vesuvius. Ms. Burnett is a lifelong resident of the City of Urbana. An entrepreneur at heart and a person driven to better herself, in 2008, when the economy was taking a turn for the worse, when she found herself a divorced mother of 4, working 2 jobs while going to school, Stacy needed extra income to make ends meet. She started selling body oils to coworkers and slowly grew her business into a kiosk at Marketplace Mall, a website and liaison in various states such as Georgia, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Illinois, and a product line that has expanded to body butters, scrubs, soaps, hand sanitizers, lotions, and more. Stacy now holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business Management from the University of Phoenix, and she contributes her energy and talent to the important work of the Champaign County Black Chamber of Commerce and the Minority Women's Network of Champaign-Urbana. Please join me in welcoming Commissioners Carol Bradford and Stacy Burnett to service on the Human Relations Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Carol, would you like to say a few words?
I would just like to say I'm very happy to be back on the commission. I have missed the commission and all the members. I recognize some folks from the first time around, so I'm just really happy to be back.
Thank you. Stacy?
Thank you. I'm excited to be a part of the team, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone and making a difference in our community.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. We have before us the minutes. Would anybody like to propose their acceptance or any changes?
I propose that we accept the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The minutes are passed, accepted.
We only have one more point of business.
Yes.
A motion to approve the agenda.
I'm sorry, I missed
That's all
that.
right.
Okay. I'll be so much smoother next time. We have before us the agenda, and would anybody care to move that we accept these minutes or have any additions or amendments for changes to them. I mean, not minutes, I'm sorry, agenda.
I propose that we accept the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The agenda is approved. Is there any public participation? Hearing none, seeing none. We now go to our old business, which we will take a look at the design and wording of the HRC business cards. Alex?
I'm going to go ahead and distribute a mock-up that we've prepared. I listened to the feedback that was shared at the last meeting and went ahead and prepared 2 mock-ups. The first mock-up, the one on the top, was the first version, and then I received some feedback, and then I produced the second mock-up. So the bottom mock-up is the most current. And I would welcome a discussion.
Let's take a moment to look at the new version. Does anyone have any comments to make? Certainly.
There's just a couple of, I see that the recycled content is, would that be? Okay, okay.
Is there, when, I know you have to be very concise and you can't put a lot of stuff, but one of the things is when you say discrimination, sometimes I feel like people think that if they're not like the minority group, from a group that is commonly thought of, that they might think that that doesn't apply to them and just sort of, right? So I don't know if there's a way, because obviously in our Constitution it goes into the full detail, but if there's a concise way to say, I see secure and end to discrimination, housing, employment, credit, and access to public accommodations. I don't know, maybe you feel that that's sufficient. I don't know. Yeah, so wait, so you're saying, so the bottom one is the one you're talking about, not the top one that said?
Yes.
if you
The
feel you-
bottom one is the
Okay, yeah. So it
current
says if
proposal.
you feel you have experienced discrimination. I don't know. Yeah. And then I just had one other idea, but I'll wait till it's time for my committee report because it's about this, but yeah.
Okay. We kind of have to, there's various things where we can go into detail. One
No, I
is the
understand. I
areas of
understand.
discrimination,
I
the other is,
understand.
but we have neglected the one for the favor of the other. Is there any ideas about how we might sneak back a little bit more of that idea of who's protected?
I have to think about it.
Without
Yeah.
needing 3 cards.
That's
Yeah,
right.
right. And, if you feel that you have.
Okay, can I, while we're thinking of that, because I'm
Mhm.
thinking pretty hard on that too, but I'm going to be nitpicky about the just general look and feel. Commission under web should be shifted over so that it aligns with Urbana. On the second half, I'm not a fan of everything else being left justified, but the Human Relations Commission being full justification.
No, he's done away with that.
Okay, so the second one, we're not looking at both as options?
No.
Okay, got it. And then, just going along with the same look and feel, scheduling an appointment, I would just say schedule an appointment in bold if you feel, because it follows the same structure that we've used for more information, the Human Relations Commission works. So, I would just follow the same structure and say schedule an appointment if you feel you have experienced
That's
discrimination.
actually stronger than, and it,
Yeah.
I think it works better than sort of leaving free-floating discrimination.
Yeah.
Right. I
So
think actually
those
that
would be my
better,
minor. Um, Yep, exactly, and just continue the sentence like we've done in the others. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you wanted to be more assertive in the last one, you could put, instead of for more information, get more information about Urbana Human Rights Ordinance by visiting and then the website. Does that make sense?
It does.
Great. These look great.
I have one question I wanted to ask. As I listened to the discussion from the last meeting, there was I think someone had mentioned the website for the Human Relations Commission, and I worked with IT to see if I could shorten that, if they could make it Urbana, Illinois /HRC, like they were able to do for the HRO, and the system doesn't permit it. It's just the way the architecture of the overall city site is. So that's why I put in here the long address. And so I wanted to ask you, if you want the long address, I have no objection to that. The only problem is that I was hoping that it could be easily, you can recall it easily. And I was the HRO is actually, I created that for everyone, for the HRO office, but also to navigate to the HRC, to navigate to the Civilian Police Review Board, and to navigate to the task force. If you wanted the web to be HRO, so they can, and then I could move to the very front of the HRO site a quick link to the HRC, or we can just leave it this very long address. So I didn't know how you wanted to do that. Now, somebody had, I think, Commissioner Bindum had said a QRC might be a good idea. So the QRC is tied to the commission website. So when they scan that, it will go directly to the commission website. So I'm kind of wondering how you thought. There will be much more information about, there are about 7 web pages under development right now that I'm working on that are going to be much more comprehensive on how to file a charge, what the charge process looks like, what rises to the level of discrimination. So a lot more informative. And those would not spin off of the HRC site because the HRC site is pretty static. It's like all the commissions are very static. Those pages would go off of the HRO site. So I was wondering if you deliberate about what you thought would be best in that situation. And, I'm open.
So I'm on the website now, and I think from a citizen's perspective, the Human Relations Office, the HRO, with the sublinks on the left is more beneficial. But I would say that the HRC is not linked from that page. It's weird.
Currently, I don't think it is.
And so I think if we could add information about the HRC to that page, one, it would be it would be the Illinois, or urbanaillinois.us/HRO, so it would be a much shorter web link that would fit on one line on the business card. And if we could add information, 2 things. If we could add HRC to the left menu, and if we could add just a little bit of HRC information on this page, because this page isn't very long, so I think that would solve multiple problems. And then that would mean the HR, the QR code on the business card should go to the HRO main site. Does that make sense? As long as HRC is represented on that site. Because right now we are not.
That's what I would propose from a logical standpoint, but I did want to make sure that I'm listening to the commission's.
Are we going to still have two different websites on the card?
No, I think Kevin's
Okay.
suggestion would be that,
It would just be easily navigable.
mhm.
Would that longer website URL still exist? It could still exist.
it wouldn't be on the
But it wouldn't
card,
be on the card.
but that would still be the official URL that
Right, okay.
navigates you to the commission.
I think if we're taking people to a rich place online, not just with the meetings and so forth, in terms of things like what is discrimination or who's protected and so on, that we don't have to, it makes it less urgent to have it here, because if we can't give them it all here, but if we give them the right key, they'll access it soon enough. I would think.
Well, for somebody
Yeah,
that
how about
this
this?
card is going to, with regards to the content of this
Mhm.
card, and maybe, I think this is what you're saying.
Mhm.
Going to our website, the Human Relations Commission's website,
Mhm.
it is really just our meeting notes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's not about actually how to report. It's not. That's what we're using the HRO website for. And this card, as far as what we are intending to use it for, should go to somebody who's in need of wanting to report, ask questions and stuff like that, and is going to be more interested in the information on the HRO site. And that is not easily navigatable from the Human Relations Commission site. Like, it's just.
I would also suggest that it is in very concise, easy to read. So let's say someone gets a card and they want to get to the website. Basically, whatever they see is either going to encourage them to go through it or dissuade them
Mhm.
and think that it's too hard or they don't have a chance or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, someone in crisis is not going to be as interested in our commission per se. We kind of come into the process a little bit later. It's really your office. It's the office
Mhm.
that is there for go-to
Mhm.
place for most individual situations.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
but I also want to highlight the importance of, as the HRO website is built up, there are going to be tabs there for the HRC.
Oh, yeah.
So, see, right now, when I want to create a page for you, there's nowhere to create it on your website.
Right.
But my website is more like the host for you as well. So
Mhm.
it'll be
Exactly.
our the HRO website is
Yeah.
our website. It'll have some HRO pieces, but it'll have HRC tabs as well. So
Mhm.
Right.
I think we're in agreement then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of the flagship webpage for
Mhm.
us.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be, I think it's going to end up being the clearinghouse, or I don't know what other word to use, the repository, for all things civil rights and community rights related. You know, from there you spin into the CPRB, you'll spin into the task force, which, although is no longer active, all of the materials are still live.
Yeah.
And any other
Right.
commission we form.
I think one quick, so one additional bullet point to the major activities of the Human Relations Division could just talk about a quick bullet point that aligns the HRO office in alignment to the HRC. And then when you mention the HRC, make that a link, but also put us on the left side as well. And I think, and then change the QR code of the business card to come here, and it makes a lot more sense logically, because the bigger piece here is the HR office, but then this takes you to HRC,
Right.
If I'm a citizen, I might be confused about that because I don't necessarily understand the relationship between the two. So if this goes to HRO, HRO explains the relationship and they can get to that. But most likely if this card is being given out, it's because they want to report or they want to talk to you more specifically.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments about the cards themselves?
Is the tagline okay? You had a good discussion about the tagline.
Mhm.
There was a discussion about expanding the tagline, and then there was a discussion about keeping it simple because it was broader.
Acting to end discrimination. There was no decision made on that last time, but there was discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments about that? This stage, it's just a discussion. We're not considering a motion about the cards. Is that correct? We don't have a motion on the floor to accept the second version. Should we do that? Should
We
have
could do a
that?
motion. You don't need to motion it because I'm just going to prepare it. But there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with doing a motion to approve it.
Okay.
I think Samuel, you, if memory serves me correctly, there was a discussion about expanding it to acting to end discrimination. I forget, it was a longer tagline.
In our community.
Making it more specific in our community.
Ah.
Or something. And then there was a discussion that I think Samuel brought up the point that it's really neat and expansive and broad, just leaving it as acting to end discrimination. So does that work for everyone?
To lengthen it?
To
Oh, to
leave it
keep
the
it
way
the
it is?
same?
I'm looking at synonyms based on your initial
I mean,
conversation.
I'm sorry, 'cause I wasn't
Unfairness
here
is
last-
coming up, and that's kind of more,
Social justice.
yeah.
Well,
but-
because I
Mhm.
wasn't here last month, but I'm also thinking
I
like,
wasn't
I'm just saying, a person gets a card, and I could see there be a category of people, the first thing in their mind is, could this help me?
Right.
And, for example, they may think, do I have to be a citizen? Or, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of people who get into all sorts of difficulties. Anyway, but I like how, the way you suggested the change. I think that actually helps. It just makes it more imperative, you know? It gives more sort of forcefulness so that, or urgency, you know, if people are in that situation. Yeah.
One thing I would share also is that I've partnered with another city unit that has much more talent in graphic design to help us to begin updating our tripod,
Mhm.
all the new commissioners, and it'll be a lot more detailed. And so I've already taken notes about some of these things. Can only citizens avail themselves of the services? Francis made an excellent point in improving it in this second version. Services are free of charge, so I put that in. I would also make it into the pamphlet. So I'm thinking that maybe in the pamphlet, we
Yeah.
can do the broader
Mm-hmm.
education. And then we're also, I think, going to be going through a poster redesign.
Mhm.
We had a little discussion about the poster that would be posted within all employment
Mhm.
settings. And we could also get a
Wonderful.
little more descriptive and educational there. So we don't have to accomplish it all on the card.
Mhm.
If we get the card, these are for you and also for the office, but if you're ever in a situation where you're handing this to someone, I think that personal contact is
Mhm.
going to encourage them to call and will get them started. And then
Exactly.
from there, Tony's always there to receive the call. He has authorization to immediately schedule them onto my calendar. And then there's the website. So I think that between your personal contact and this level of detail, we're off to a good start.
Mhm.
But I am hoping to.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we hand out the card, of course, we're going to be saying, and these are the primary points: the phone number, the website, and this is your next step, and what kind of things are there. Here you will find answers to a lot of questions, or here you will be able to discover whether you're going to be able to do anything about your problem, and so forth. There's not actually a hotline, but the number is open during normal business hours, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And they can leave a message. Just last week, we normally don't do a lot of telephone screening when they call because people are very agitated and they're very upset when they call, and they don't want to be triaged over the phone. So
Right.
the minute they call, I take some very basic information so that I don't lose track of them, like what's your name and what's your phone number, and let's get you in right away. And so this particular caller last week, we got in within the very next day, actually. And we went through the an assessment, and what that person experienced did not rise to the level of discrimination. It was just poor management. Nevertheless, it was very beneficial for that person to come and share their story, and left with a very positive impression of the office, the service, and if that person or any other person experiences it, they're going to make the referral. So it can be a little time consuming to meet with somebody for an hour to find that no discrimination doesn't rise to that level, but it's worth it for the service to the community.
Right. I think the card plus the pamphlet plus the poster plus other things as well, that's very powerful. I'm glad it's not just the card, because that's going to be very powerful outreach into the community that we don't really have right now covered. So,
May I ask just one more question?
yeah.
There was one addition that I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with. I'm comfortable with it. Is under the Human Relations Commission, I received a suggestion to add the last 4 words, in the interest of social justice and civic harmony. And I think it makes sense. Just wanted to highlight that was another substantive addition.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to put us in touch with our higher goals, because those are.
I love it.
Thank you.
Can I come back real quick? Because I still understand Aisha's concern about the phrase discrimination, and I'm wondering if, just a quick, if you feel, so where it says schedule an appointment now, if you feel you have been treated unfairly, might be better than have experienced discrimination.
That won't work.
You don't think so?
Been
Okay.
discriminated again?
That's very
It's more broad.
subjective
Yeah.
and unfairly versus discrimination is more like a legal term, and really.
It definitely is, but,
Unfortunately, we have to be only concerned with legal terms because of the burden of proof.
right.
But
I
I
get
see
that,
what
but
you're
in
saying,
regards
yeah.
to people not understanding the legal definition of discrimination, I mean, I'm
Right.
sure that's part of Alex's daily education of what is the criteria for actually being discrimination. But coming back to that concept, if I'm not what I perceive to be a minority status, does this apply to me?
Right.
I have a question. Is there enough room on the card to put, for a legal definition of discrimination, visit our website or something to that effect? So that if they're not really sure what we mean by discrimination, we're directing them to where they can get that definition to see if it would cover them or their situation. I know there's only so much space, so.
I think that goes back to what Alex mentioned before about us having some type of personal contact when it is that we disseminate the cards. I don't imagine that they'll be sitting out on a table and people would be picking them up, but we would be handing them individually to particular people out in the community, possibly. But what's the purpose of the card and how is it intended to be disseminated would probably give us a better idea of, how we should proceed. My understanding or expectation is that it would be our personal cards with our names on it that we would be handing or providing to people within the community that might have interest in services.
So that helps clear it up a little bit versus I'm actually handing this to an individual and I'm talking with them and I'm actually going to be giving them additional information and I may be the person that's giving them the definition of discrimination versus here's a card or the card's just sitting
Sitting
there
there, yeah.
and there's nobody to add additional information for them.
Or let's say any one of us is giving a talk to a group of people, right?
It's a
So then
contact.
afterwards, you know, maybe people come up to you and you can give them the card. I mean, that the context of that is much clearer, I think, right?
Would it clarify at all to, at some place where the word discrimination is used, to say illegal discrimination?
No.
No, because it isn't.
It
It's-
muddies the waters.
You know, it just came to me. How does this sound? Schedule an appointment if you feel you might have been discriminated against by calling or emailing. Oh, no, wait. Well, substantively, if you feel you might have been discriminated against. Does that help at all?
I like the discriminated against because the person, I consider it kind of in crisis situation when you're reaching out for help. You kind of feel a bit of a victim. You're not sure whether that has any status, but to be discriminated against is that there has been something done to you, a hostile act, a wrong, an unfair act. And so I kind of like that way of phrasing it, but I wouldn't insist on it. I think this is fine too.
Well, instead of saying discriminated against, you could say if you may have experienced discrimination.
Right.
Or if you have, I don't know. I'm just saying, if you say against, it's not like a dangling modifier.
Yeah.
It's not actually grammatically correct.
Yeah.
What?
Dangling modifier.
You have
Okay,
been
well,
discriminated against. That's not
Anyway,
grammatical.
I'm just
We'll
saying.
discuss it. We'll take this outside. Okay.
But I think that the poster is the chance to put
And then-
more, little more info and a
Okay.
very, you
Yeah.
know.
And I also think that since there is an if, that's kind of already present. It's implicit to say that it may not be because it's an if.
Right, you feel, or if you have.
So,
You-
So, if possible, I want to get this settled so that we can order it tomorrow
Okay.
and get it to you. So, what is the consensus? Where are we feeling that we might be at?
Can I ask a question? So, is there the space here, is someone's name going there, or is that just a space in between?
It's just a space. It's all of the business cards in the city have that space.
Okay.
It's beneficial, I think, for you because you can handwrite your name on
Handwrite,
there.
okay, I didn't know if it was going to be typeset.
We're not going to get personal ones.
No, that would be
Okay.
extremely expensive.
Okay.
But this is for you to pass out as.
Well, may I suggest that the font be increased?
To not have our names on it.
And
From a
just
distance
put your
perspective.
name on there, that's the personal
Yeah.
touch, you know.
Can the font be increased just a hair for Human Relations Commission at the top?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea.
You think to match the city of Urbana?
Yes. Or the Human Relations Commission's meetings font?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Is there any objection or does anybody feel strongly about using the word, the phrasing, if you feel you have been a victim of discrimination? Because that personalizes it. I
Mhm.
have mixed feelings about the word victim, but I think it does kind of lend more of a, than just saying you know, experience discrimination or discriminated against. But if you feel,
How about if you believe?
if you believe that you have been the victim of,
Or you have been a victim of discrimination. Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't know if that helps or if it makes it
Don't
worse.
say please, just say call.
Mhm.
Yeah,
If you believe you have been a victim of discrimination, call
Call.
or whatever it is you want to do.
do call, yes.
Yeah.
There's a little more,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Not have been, but are.
Mhm.
If you are the victim of discrimination, if you're going to use victim,
Yeah, right.
As an HR person, I worry about the word victim.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
from
But-
how I see people respond in the workplace to that word, and then how that word becomes bigger than
Sure.
it is at sometimes. I mean, there are times where that is a truly important word to use, and then there are times where that word is often abused and used to blow up emotions. So I have mixed feelings, but I wouldn't oppose it necessarily.
Well, it does lend urgency, and also, if people might tend to be, it emphasizes the idea that a wrong has been committed against a person. It should be reported, and it's a good thing to report it. It will be good for you. So,
So if we went that route, it would read,
okay.
scheduling an appointment. Schedule an appointment if you believe you are a victim of discrimination, period. Services are free of charge, period.
We could put, if you think you have been the victim of discrimination, that could be in bold. Please call or email our office to schedule an appointment. Or call or schedule an appointment. We've got scheduling an appointment and scheduling an appointment in there. We probably don't need both of those.
You could just say, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anymore.
I think therein lies the colon. So it would
So
just
the
be
colon was doing a good job.
schedule an appointment if you, instead of scheduling, the colon
Uh-huh.
indicates that there's instruction versus it being a statement.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Definitely grammatically better. So schedule an appointment if you believe that you are a victim of discrimination. Call or email our office. Services are free of charge. Just trying to make it a little less wordy. Or schedule an appointment by calling or emailing our office if you feel you are the victim of discrimination.
I think schedule an appointment if you believe you have,
Mm-hmm.
if you believe you were a victim of discrimination, call or email.
Call or
You
email.
don't wanna have to say schedule an appointment and then call or email to schedule an appointment.
Right.
Because that's redundant.
Exactly.
So-
So,
Schedule an appointment if you believe you are a victim.
mhm, of discrimination. Call or email our
You may wanna move
office.
call or email up front. Call or email to schedule an
An
appointment if
appointment.
you believe you have experienced discrimination.
Services are free of charge. Plonk.
Okay, what was the last iteration?
Call or
Call or
email
To
to schedule an appointment.
if you
if-
believe you have experienced
Mhm.
discrimination, or if you believe you are a victim of discrimination.
How does that sit with you guys?
Not experience, if you believe you were a victim of discrimination.
Or that could be, yeah, maybe that way or the other way, but one of those ways.
Well, I think of leaving schedule or schedule an appointment in bold. As I look at the other ones, that is
Mhm.
the main point. The
Mhm.
points are in bold. I don't know if calling or email would be the point, but it's scheduling
to
the
repeat it.
appointment. Say
You
again?
don't have to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
Scheduling and then schedule
Schedule
an
an
appointment.
Right, that's not good.
The space is precious. So every bit of information should be something that adds.
So why not schedule an appointment
Via,
by
by phone or email.
calling or email if you feel you have experienced discrimination, or if you feel you have been a victim of discrimination? Services are free of charge.
That seems good.
Yeah.
I think we have consensus.
I said, schedule an appointment by calling or emailing, or,
You
I'm
don't put
against
that.
the ing. Call or. I'm
Via
against
phone or
Schedule an
email.
appointment if you feel you have experienced
Third person.
discrimination by calling or emailing, and you can put whatever.
No,
Or just
that
note
sounds like
out.
you're
Just
being,
leave
Call
it
or
out
email.
and put
Mhm.
Call or email.
services are free of charge. Yeah, drop.
You just want to say
Or,
call
yeah.
or email, however you put it. Not call.
schedule an appointment if you believe you have been a victim of discrimination. Call or email. Period.
Or
Services
you
are
could
free.
put
Just
call or
leave-
email in front and leave schedule and appointment in bold.
That's true.
We are
It's still-
leaving it in bold, aren't we?
Yes, but you can
Yes,
move
but you can have
call,
words before it.
call or
though.
email in front of it and leave schedule, slide that down and leave schedule and appointment. Call or email to schedule an appointment, but still have schedule and appointment in bold. So that is the focal point.
schedule an
And then go into
schedule
if
an
you feel you
appointment by
Right,
phone
okay.
or
been a victim
email.
or
By
such
phone
Start
or
the sentence
email.
over.
Schedule an
I'm
appointment
getting
by
married.
No, all right.
no.
phone
Okay.
or email.
Let Stacy.
Call.
Yeah. Say it.
Call or email to schedule an appointment. But schedule an appointment will still be in bold. If you feel you have been a victim of discrimination, or a victim, or however you say,
Yeah.
if you were,
Mhm.
And then-
if you believe you're a victim of discrimination,
And then just services are free of charge.
Services.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
free of charge.
I think that's good.
Because what we're trying to avoid is being redundant
Mhm.
by having schedule an appointment on there at the beginning
Right.
and end of the
Right.
sentence. So that way you take that out, it's much more clear, it makes more sense.
And you still have your schedule and appointment in bold, even though call or email is in front.
Mhm.
So it would now read,
Right.
call, but it's okay, it's worth it. Call or email to bold, schedule an appointment, and bold.
Mhm.
If you believe you are a victim of discrimination, period, services are free of charge.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
good.
And that might look really neat, because the bolding then will be in the middle, or a
Yeah.
little
Mhm.
closer to the middle,
Mhm.
whereas it has been left justified throughout, so that kind of maybe will have it jump out a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay.
This image,
Mhm.
that, something I'm not too familiar with, yeah, is that, that goes to the, where does that?
We're
Take
gonna
us-
move it to the HRO website. Right now, it's the
Okay.
HRC website. But we're gonna move it to HRO.
Perfect.
You wanna see what it does?
Yeah, I've never used
So this is, and then all I do is point it to that, and then it'll take me directly to.
Okay. Very good.
to that suggestion, we're now incorporating that in all of our posters. Thank you.
Good job. Is that yours? Cool. Okay. So do we have any more comments on this subject? Thank you, Alex. It looks very good. And it's a wonderful first step in our outreach. We don't require any kind of motion on this?
Why don't we do it just in case, since we're going to
Okay.
spend money?
Okay. Would someone like to move that we accept the second design with the changes that we had discussed in the scheduling an appointment and website URLs to use?
So moved.
Someone second that, please.
Second.
Okay. The motion is sorry. All in favor?
We don't even need to be here, do we?
I say
Aye.
the motion. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion has passed. Okay. So ends our old business. Our new business, committee reports. Community Relations Committee, sorry. That's me. Don't really have anything to report this time, although I do hope to meet with Aisha to discuss some of her suggestions having to do with the women in the Muslim community. Criminal Justice Committee. Nobody's here. Ordinance Enforcement Committee.
Okay, I haven't yet met with Pete. I have read the suggestions, and actually what I was sort of thinking of also was, I mean, how like all of the committees kind of like move into the other committees stuff too. So, I mean, like I was thinking about this, like, okay, so you want to have this poster, let's say, and you put it on the businesses, right? But in fact, it's not just for the owners of the business, it's also for anyone who comes in. So that would be this poster that we're talking about. In other words, it's education both ways, you know, for anybody. It's not just telling people, you better do this or else, right? But also letting people that work there, people that walk in the place that they're working there, and also if we do get something up there, when there are talks given to various groups, and we would also be telling them that, you know, you should be able to see this, you know, in many places in public in the future. I mean, sort of like it's a two-way sort of thing, not just enforcing, you know, but letting people, like, whatever ways we can to sort of let people know that these resources are available. Anyway.
Right. So it's training and development, it's community relations, it's a lot of
Right,
things
but I'm just
at
saying,
once.
like, yeah, for ordinance enforcement, that also it's, there's a way, and I have a feeling that if a poster were to come off as that sort of thing, it would be much more palatable to the people who are being ordinanced upon versus the ordinancees. So that, you know, it wouldn't feel like, man, you know, these are these rules, and if you don't follow them, you know, we're going to have you. Instead, it's sort of like letting everyone know, you know, yeah.
Right. You have rights.
That's a
the
great
big
idea.
message.
While you were describing it, I already started envisioning panes, different panes in the poster, that each of the panes deal with, or windows within, that deal with the different services. So, yeah.
Or even
Yeah.
like, you know, sort of like how they have FAQs, like questions like very, I mean, not real detailed, but so that people understand immediately, like, who can avail themselves, you know, what are the kind of situations. It's free, you don't have to be a citizen, it's confidential, you know, these type of things, these protections as well.
Yeah. And in that tradition, several meetings ago, Aisha mentioned PSAs. And so I've started looking at public service announcements. There are a ton out there that do 3-minute education on discrimination, different behaviors that could be discriminatory. And so those, that's one of the tabs for the 7 that I was describing that could contain some of those. Not too many, but enough. There are already some on YouTube that we could link to. So as we're, when we get together to have that discussion, I'll be looking for help to screen which ones are best representative for us.
Yeah, we really have 2 big audiences, the ordinancees and the ordinancers. Yeah, and each one has a different reception of this information.
And
I tend to focus on the people who may be victims or experience this, but it's equally important that
I mean, think of
it's
there's
reference for everybody.
Right, there's an employer, right? and you're thinking, okay, there's these ordinances they have to know. But at the same time, I'm saying all of these people, there are employees also, right? There are vendors and there are customers. I mean, a lot of things can be going on, and if you keep it such that you're just saying that there are all these categories or potential problems, you're not saying employer, you know. You're just saying, you know, this is what we do, this is what's available, and this is the law.
Yeah. Well, right, the idea of rights and obligations on both sides. So each has to be appealed to and want to read it and turn to it when they think they might need it. That's very important. It's not just another thing on the wall, words on the wall. Okay. Training and development.
I handed out last week the draft. I haven't heard any feedback from that in regards to drafts for helping transition new board members. So would love your feedback as you transition back to the board and to the board or to the commission. Ideas of things that we could do better to help transition new folks to the board, like what's going on, what's, you know, just basic training of using the microphone and stuff like that. So still waiting for that feedback, and Alex and I are still trying to find time to meet. But speaking of new members, have we got a system in place for determining interest for committees, explaining committee structures to new members, and placing them on committees as their interest and committee openings allow?
Yes, both of the new commissioners have received the feedback that was the survey feedback for all of the commissions, and I interviewed them as to their preferences, and now I'm going to be sitting down and identifying where they might best serve. They had their first orientation meeting yesterday, and so we were able to go through the EEO process. So when we get to that here in the shortly, they're in a good position to understand everything. And we went cell by cell using a previous meeting as the model. So
Thank you, Tony. That's
and
awesome.
then they're going to have
That's
one more orientation session, and then we'll be in a good position to really work on the overall orientation, but also a binder for commissioners that Kevin also mentioned. So can we commit to getting some feedback into the HRO office on the packet that Kevin distributed?
Yeah, I was in here
I
last
didn't get
month.
one. No.
Is it on the?
Is there?
Did we put it on the?
I didn't
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
So here's what we'll do. We'll advance.
I did send it to you digitally. Is that correct? I thought I sent it during the meeting. Let me check, but it's not that big a deal.
So we'll email it again out to everyone, and then if you'll take a peek at it and then get it
Definitely.
back to us 3 weeks from today, that'll give us an opportunity to tabulate the feedback and get it back to you, and then we can discuss it on the next meeting.
Yeah, I sent it to the HRO address.
Okay. We received it because I printed it out, and
Perfect.
Tony received it because he printed it out for me too, so I have 2 copies.
Okay, no, so we do have digital copies if people need it, we can send it out. Thank you.
That'd be great. Okay. On to the staff report. Alex?
Okay. For this cycle, we have 2 companies filing for the first time. The first is BNOC, I believe it's spelled. 10 employees. They have a 20% minority utilization rate. It has some good diversity of representation there. 10% African American utilization, 20% women utilization, 10% Latino utilization. And we're recommending, based on their size and their utilization, 2 years for certification. The second is Mid-Illinois Concrete and Excavation. They are 53 employees, and their minority utilization is 0. We are recommending an initial provisionary certification of 6 months with a letter informing them that at the time of renewal, they will need to show good faith in their recruitment efforts to diversify their workforce.
Alex, do you provide, I know the state and the federal government both have like great examples of good faith efforts. Do you provide that to them in regards to what activities can be defined as good faith efforts
We
when it
do.
comes to diversifying their workforce?
We do. And I think all of you have a computer in front of you. If you go to the HRO website, which is Urbana, Illinois /HRO, you'll see a tab that I created not very long ago called, let me just navigate there.
Public vendors.
It's something vendors.
Public vendors, contractors.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you go there,
Mhm.
I was getting a lot of phone calls. How does your process work? Is it frightening? Do you need, everything in my blood type? And so I created this, and you'll see at the very bottom, there is a guide and an FAQ. And both of those give the applicant and the renewing applicant information on what is good faith efforts, and even perhaps a way of reporting it to us. And I've also started to increase telephone calls to ask questions, and I've started to do some quick little training on how good faith efforts work. So the answer is yes.
And then my other question, sorry, but my other question, because some of you that have been on the commission longer than I have, I know like the 2-year is our kind of gold standard, which this first company I completely agree with, and that what has been our precedence for good faith efforts that have been made but still not necessarily got the representation in the workforce that we would like? Do we just continue to do 6 months at a time, do you know, as far as precedence? Or because if they meet the criteria of good faith, we have to do something, it's my understanding.
Well, I think I do remember we had there was a person who came in a couple before you, Alex, who we had given their company, like, we weren't happy with their good faith effort, and basically he came in to tell a story so we didn't really know all the context, and basically he was saying that the trades, as they call them, that they had a problem, and that was that they were not allowed to say, we want someone of minority status. They have to just say, we want this position, and whatever they are sent, that's what they have to accept. And then he also went on to say how even though these are jobs that pay quite a bit, like $35 and up per hour, they had done numerous going to high schools and stuff and could not really find people interested, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm just saying that I think that sometimes there is more than meets the eye, and I guess there's a difficulty, with vis-a-vis companies, unions, et cetera, et cetera.
So do we track whether or not the good faith efforts continue, and we still like do 6 months, 1 year? Do you know what we've done in the past?
I think that's what we
Seems-
kept doing with that.
Seems to me that we tend to, like we go down step by step, we kind of go up step by step and see how it's going, but encourage them by giving them a longer approval. That's my recollection.
Thank you.
Alex, does that jibe with
Yes.
your
One of it's one of my I'm eager and excited for one of the things to look at is to partner with you, is to look at our overall statistically. How are we doing in the processing of these cases? And so I've already started to put all of the data into a format on the spreadsheet where I can begin to have some kind of quarterly report or annual report to see how many companies are we certifying and what sort of, based on their employee counts and their diversity utilization, how is that sort of falling out?
Yeah, are we
And
having an effect?
Yeah, and that's going to be very helpful. So that's one area. The other area is, so the federal standards are very different. And sometimes I'll get phone calls. I got a phone call recently. Well, we meet the federal standard, and the person said, "Why we didn't get certified with you the way we would with the federal government? Why?" And I said, "Well, ours is a lot more holistic, and we look at several factors that the federal government's not going to be looking at." And so we had to have a conversation about what some of those factors might be, and how good faith efforts, the evaluation of good faith efforts and progress to diversify your workforce. And so the short answer would be, I can try to get a report done within the next 90 days that will begin to inform us. I've also completed a first redesign of the application. There are some questions we're not asking that I think that we could be asking and can help us evaluate it. So that goes to what Aisha was talking about. There are times when we call somebody in that we learn things that we could have learned through a question on the application. And there's a couple of new questions that I've added. And that's almost ready to come to a work group for you guys to look at as well. So I hope that is somewhat responsive to the question.
I would be concerned about historical data at this point if the application is going to change and the data in that report is going to be different in some level. I think more importantly than past data is establishing criteria and that for moving forward, rather than taking 90 days of your time to look backwards. I think we really need to look at, like, what is it that we are going to be consistent with going forward and making that criteria and then developing that report from that structure. I think I love data and that, and I'm curious about historically using some data for that for the reason of moving forward, but at the same time I wouldn't want you wasting time when our time could be spent moving forward in a more productive and effective, efficient way, if that would be the case. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, if we're going to change the data points, let's decide what the data points are and just move forward versus...
But I think that's what, when he's saying, having better questionnaires, they get to the nub of it.
Right.
You know, for example, if you find out that, there's a recession and they've let so many people go, but that's, their economic circumstances are doing it anyway.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that those points need to be on the application, but they're not currently, and so looking at past data, I'm not sure helps us move forward necessarily. Like, it's not that it would be a total waste of time, but I'm not sure it would be.
Right. Okay.
Well,
Just my two.
the criteria that the examiner, who is the HRO, has been using is not codified, but we have criteria that we're looking at. And there are criteria that the commission is looking at. It's just not codified. So part of my desire to look at, since I'm new in the role, part of my desire to look at the past was to be able to extract sort of what are all the criteria that are being used. So I would not spend a lot of time. I can do this in 3 days, but getting 3 days together is impossible. So that's why I gave myself the 90
We'll
days
shut
to
you
get
in a
3
room.
days.
That's very
Yeah.
effective. I'm sorry.
But I cannot agree with you more, Kevin, that we're engaging in a holistic. I'm engaging in a holistic examination. You all are engaging in a holistic examination. There are times when we're reviewing an application that commissioners want to know census data for a particular region. They want to know the distribution along classes of jobs, and so I am completely in agreement with looking at what the criteria generally are, at least the first level criteria. And in a work group, I think we'll be able to flesh that out. Is there a motion to approve the 2 new applications and a discussion?
Somebody move.
I'll move.
I can't do it. Okay. Second?
I second it. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries.
Well, so point of order. Fran, did you say
Yes.
you can't, our chair does not vote?
I vote, but I can't
Okay.
make a motion. Is that
Right,
correct?
Great.
Yeah. Right.
And-
Okay.
And we have 7 companies applying for renewal of their certification.
Mhm.
The first company is ABC Sanitation. They've experienced a reduction of employees by 6. They're now at 26 employees. Their minority representation is 46.2%. They have 0 African American utilization, 23.1% female utilization, 46.2% Latino utilization. And they were previously certified for 2 years. We're recommending certification for 1 year. The second company, Baker Tilly Kraus, has experienced an increase of employees. They're now at 2,932 employees. Their minority utilization is 9.4%. They've achieved a pretty respectable female utilization at 49.5%. Their African American utilization is at 3.1%, and their Latino utilization is at 1.9%. Asians at 4.3%. Native Americans at 0.1%. They were previously certified for 6 months, and we're requesting their certification at another 6 months to see what their progress looks like at their renewal point. Community Resources is a very small company. They've increased or expanded by 1 employee. They're now at 14. Their minority utilization is at 7.1%. Given their size, they were
That's impressive.
Given their size, they were
Mhm.
certified at 2 years last
Mhm.
time, and we're recommending their recertification at 2 years. Deuce Construction has experienced a significant reduction in employees. They're down from 41 to 21, and their minority utilization is 4.8%. It was 4.9 when they were at the larger number. And so we're requesting to hold them the same, recertify them at 1 year. Rogards Office Plus experienced a loss of 2 employees. They're now at 17 employees. They had 0% utilization last time and 0% utilization at this renewal period. We're recommending recertification for another 6 months to see what they're able to achieve by the renewal point. Western Waterproofing has held the same. There are 32 employees. They were at 3.1% utilization, and they've increased it to 9.4% utilization. They were previously certified at 6 months, and we now recommend recertification at the 1-year mark. I wanted to point something out on Western. I was very impressed by their response when they got our letter. They called and asked if they could get some guidance on why the commission only gave them 6 months. And we had a long conversation and talked about some of the factors that the commission looks at and how good faith is important, but we also need to see progress. And after the conversation, it was about an hour conversation, I gave them some ideas that they hadn't considered, things that they can do to really get out and diversify their workforce, and some things they can do to demonstrate to some of the organizations that they do business with that they mean business. And after the conversation with the director of HR and the assistant, they resubmitted, and they attached in the packet some letters. And I was quite impressed. They sent letters to all of the unions that they do business with, reminding them and kind of telling them, we have obligations to be an equal employment opportunity employer, and we need you to do your part in recruiting that. And in one of the letters, they said, we're willing to work with you to do that. And so I thought if more employers did this, and these unions kept getting these letters, that would be outstanding. And so just to give you a little feel for it, they sent a letter to the Bricklayers local, to the Local 06, Bricklayers Local 08, Masons Local 18, letter to Masons Local, I guess there's 2 offices there, Local 18, Ironworkers Local 46, Laborers Local 231, Laborers Local 362, Laborers Local 477, Laborers Local 703, Laborers Local 965, Painters District 58. And then the CEO sent a letter, an email to, I believe, the entire organization and its managers, reminding them of the organization's commitment to equal employment opportunity. I believe they did one other thing. And we also discussed some of their partners or suppliers. They sent information. So we've had a couple of companies that respond in this way, and it's really encouraging. So just a little example how our letters and our taking time out of a busy day to take a phone call from an applicant to educate them on our process, I think is having some positive results.
So, Alex, real quick, with that, do we have an employer's toolbox that we can include that with, like whether it be ask their permission to scan it and put it on the website? I mean, I think that's a great example, and what better way for other organizations to get ideas than from their peers?
It's a great question. I asked them that. I asked
Great.
them if they would be willing to be part of a model, and they would like to discuss that.
Great.
And one of the things I'd like to do, it takes more time, and so as part of a work group, I would like to put out on the toolbox what a model application looks like,
Mhm.
with extraordinary good faith efforts, and maybe a company that was certified at 6 months that then got to 2 years, and sort of like the journey there. So yeah, I would be very excited to work with you on that.
Great. And I hope there's a way that you can pass on our gratitude for their efforts, because I think that would be also important for them to know that the commission appreciates that very much. more so than just upping their contract.
Yes, I will share that.
I agree with that. And also, if people don't do that, if they just throw up their hands and say it's the unions, then nothing ever happens. It's not going to change. And this is a wonderful example of how it doesn't have to be that way.
The last company that's applying for renewal is Woolard Marketing Consultants, and they're a very small company. They previously were 3 employees, and they've lost an employee. They're now at 2. They have 0% utilization, and they were previously certified for 2 years, and we recommend that they have the next 2 years to grow their company and see what they're able to accomplish. Is there a motion and discussion?
Don't we have a threshold?
Yeah, it's generally around 15 or under.
Yeah.
I believe it's 15
15?
employees.
So, I mean, using that, Frank, can you enlighten me? Is this just more for our knowledge then? I mean, if we have a threshold, then why would it come to us if they don't meet the threshold?
It's
They still
No, there is no
Okay.
threshold. You
I know they have
must-
to turn it in, but
yes,
if we have a threshold in regards to,
but it's still
Okay.
being granted.
okay, through us.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
have authority to administratively approve one of these in special circumstances. But even when I administratively approve something, I only approve it for 3 months.
Okay,
And because I want it to go to the commission, the
great.
commission is vested with the authority to actually approve.
Okay. Well, I'll move to approve the renewals as recommended by staff.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. Okay. So,
Staff report, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
HRO activity report.
where is it? That was uplisted. Oh, I see. Excuse me. Here we are.
Yeah, what is it, when you have employment and you put no protected class, no jurisdiction, what does that mean? Somebody said they felt they were being discriminated against, but it was personal and not,
Yeah, that is, it's when someone comes and meets with me. So, which, you're referring to, which date, the February 16th?
no, I was just the second one, January 15.
Oh, the,
I just,
there was no
Oh.
basis of,
I'm just saying when that comes, it's more like something personal, so you don't see that they didn't belong to a protected class. No, you don't have to remember that one. I'm just saying in general, when you put that down, what that means. No
Well,
protected class.
We don't, the ordinance doesn't really limit us to protected classes,
That's what I mean.
but it does have criteria for the
Protected
kind of
class.
discrimination that we were trying to get rid of, which means some factor that's not relevant to the job. Right?
Relevant to the job, or you mean
There,
no protected
an
class?
an action has been taken untoward action, or whatever they call it, and it was due to like he didn't do his job well or she didn't do her job well, which is not anything that we considered. We don't consider that discrimination in employment.
That's not the, you say someone didn't do their job well, but it would be because, right? Then there's these protected classes that they belong to, and they feel they're being discriminated because they're being singled out as being a member of one of those
Uh-huh.
groups, right? But in this case, I'm saying, does it mean that it's basically sort of like a personal thing? Like it's just that particular person?
It's when it's not a rational, job-related,
Well,
it's not a job.
discrimination
or
isn't
crim-
rational either, but
Right, no,
it's okay.
but,
I know,
but.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
If it's related to job performance and it's not being imposed arbitrarily, then we don't, it's not a protected sort of thing,
Yeah, but the,
right? Right? Is that what you,
No, I don't-
no?
yeah, the protected class bias is under what category is this person filing the complaint?
Yeah.
Right? And so when it says no protected class, does that mean that the person that is filing the complaint does not fall into one of the 19 protected classes protected by the city of Urbana?
I believe it is that there was no protected class or basis, although technically
What was
the ordinance
claimed, though?
covers everyone.
Right.
And so it would,
Right.
if,
It wasn't on basis of belonging to a group.
exactly. It did,
Mhm.
It was a personal
mhm.
thing, whatever.
And so, like the situation that presented last week,
Mhm,
there was no, although there was harm to this person, they
Mhm.
lost their job,
mhm.
the harm or the adverse action that they experienced
Adverse.
was
Mhm.
not related to any of the protections afforded
Right.
by the ordinance. So no protected class would be that descriptor.
Like,
Okay.
that's people who tell bad jokes don't fall under a protected class. You know, if they said that's
Well, they
fine.
could if it didn't interfere with their work.
No, it's not a protected class.
Now, if they tell bad jokes that have racial,
No, but I'm saying they
Right.
don't. They just tell bad jokes. Anyway, sorry.
But we don't
just giving
depend
you a
on the
hard time.
notion of protected class in Urbana.
Pardon me?
We don't depend on the notion of a protected class in Urbana. That's the beauty of the Urbana ordinance.
No, I understand. Anyone can be discriminated.
Right.
Anyone. Yes.
And if he's still doing his job well,
Mhm.
it's a discrimination case.
Yeah, but the thing
Yeah.
is, okay, well, you could say if they're doing their job well, but I don't know that that would give them the ability to come to the commission and say, I've been discriminated against. That's why I'm saying when it says protected class. Anyway, I don't want to beat a
Okay.
dead horse. You want to go home eventually.
Yes, sorry. All right,
and,
continue, Alex.
and then with our monthly complaint report, we have, the first case is in a request for information phase. There's been information requested and been tendered. In the second case, we have employment case that is in the middle of settlement process, so we'll see how that turns out. The third case, again, in the middle of a exploring settlement process. The 0811 case is in a determination stage of probable cause or no probable cause. 0903 is under reviewing the request for information that's been received. 1004, the information is also under review. And 1105, we just received a while ago the information, and there's going to be another request for information issued. And I'll let Tony talk about the money.
And I'll be short and sweet. There have been no changes to the budget since the February report.
Mhm.
Oh, I did want to add, did anybody get a chance to see the Black History Month advertisement that the Human Relations Commission put out? It was in the News Gazette. It was really nice, very simple. We'll forward you a copy of it. You know, being new in the office, I get these emails, in 3 days, this piece is due. And I'm sitting there like, oh my. And so actually, what led to developing a partnership with one of the marketing persons here is I ran in a panic and said, could you help us improve what we did last year? And I was blown away. It's just so simple and so warm. And so I'll try to send it to you. But anyway, that was $500. And that's what it was last time. So we'll be having a deduction here of $500 when that bill comes through. I don't know if one of the things I'd like to do is meet with you soon to discuss at one of the meetings our marketing sort of plan for the year. So that 500 might be a little bit much for, I think it was a very large ad in the Black History piece. But I was happy that we were featured so prominently, and it was so sleek, and I think it said something like diversity, it does a community good. No, diversity, the wealth of our community, and then the Human Relations Commission. So it was just very pop, and there it was. So we'll see how it comes out. And then for those of you that went to the Martin Luther King celebration, I also had a little bit short notice on that one, and I put together the HRC ad insert, and it turned out really nicely as well. So if you didn't see it, I'll also send that to you, so you can start getting a feel for the copy that we're getting in terms of a library. That's all.
Very good. That qualifies as an announcement. That's very good. Are there any other announcements?
Just FYI, in case anybody else is planning on doing it, I did sign up for the Citizens Police Academy.
Wow.
I'm very excited.
Is
That's
anybody else
wonderful.
going to be signing up for it?
When you say that, do you mean the ride-along, or you mean?
It's a 9-week course, something like every Thursday night. It's the course, which includes a ride-along. I'm very excited.
Will you be able to make those citizens arrests?
I'm going to leave
Follow
the
it out,
police
really?
enforcement to the police.
I'd like to ask one quick question. Do all of you have name badges? The city council members have name badges that they're pretty nice size, and they have the Urbana logo, and then they have their name, and then it says councilman. And as we start our outreach process, I think you ought to have them. I know that Daniel, we have one in the office for Daniel, the chair. I don't know why we have it and he doesn't. So I'm going to get a hold of him. I found it in a file cabinet. And it led me to believe, did we ever make any for you? Do you have any?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and order them for you. And you have a choice. You can get the old-fashioned one that has the needle that sort of pierces your clothing, or they have a one that is a strong magnet, and so you can magnetize it. Is there? I'd like to just go down the line and find out which do you prefer.
Magnet.
Magnet.
Okay, magnet. All right. And then the other option, if you don't mind, I don't want to come up with a mock-up because they're already standardized. The one thing that I did want to ask your input on is, it says, so the first and last name in a pretty large font, and then a space, and then City of Urbana, I believe, and then your title. So yours would be Human Relations Commissioner. I'm getting older, and I now need to go get glasses. And so and I haven't been wearing glasses, so I'm having trouble seeing past 6 feet, even probably like 22 font. And so what I was at is function, I saw two of our council members early on in my tenure, and I didn't know their name, but I knew their face. And so I was straining to see their name, and I couldn't see it from where I was, and it was so embarrassing. And so it made me think, because I thought that it would be good for you to have them, that perhaps yours, the first name, should be larger and bold, and the last name underneath it in caps, and not as bold. so that for those of us that are struggling to see or have low vision issues, we can see your name. We don't have to be right on you. We can actually see your name from, I think Tony and I did a test and he has perfect vision. Yeah, I think I was at, from 6 or 8 feet. You'd be able to better see if it was larger font, your first name, and then your last name. So the option is large font first name, underneath it your last name in caps. It might be really good for Bower Sox Johnson since it's so long. Or do you want all of it on one line, and it's not as it's not as large. Any discussion?
I'm fine. I just go with whatever fits, and I think the first name being bigger is fine.
I'm fine with it.
I think that would be very culturally competent for those that have struggles with our vision. And that's coming from a person wearing multifocal contact lenses who also has to wear the not regular reading glasses, but remember the little magnifying? I actually have that in glasses form. So I do think that would be very nice for people that may have issues.
At my 45th high school reunion, they had the print was very small, and there was a little picture of you from the high school yearbook, and it was a real joke because everybody was looking closely at everybody else's chest to see their names.
Okay, so I will order your name badges. They'll be ready for you for the next commission meeting, and I'll go ahead and do a large bolded first name, and then a capped smaller font last name, and then the traditional. You're the city, and then your commission, and then it'll be another way that we outreach and brand and represent ourselves. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.